Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Who Saved Over My Podcast. I'm your co-host, Neil Strebig. Joined with me, as always, is fellow co-host Donald Double D DeCray. And I mean, first and foremost, good to see everybody again. Sorry we've been MIA and kind of put the blame on me, I think, going across the country, chasing down journalism dreams, and then, having to
Chasing
come all the way
dreams,
back.
huh?
Yeah,
Don't go
yeah.
chasing waterfalls. Weren't we warned about this?
And we were, yeah, I didn't listen. I didn't listen to the
Yeah, you
lyrics of the
didn't
song.
well, I mean, to be fair, I was busy growing a beard and I got engaged. So wedding planning
Yes.
definitely got in the way of my shit as well a little bit. So this isn't just on you. It goes both ways. We've been busy dudes. In
So
good ways.
big
In good
congratulations
ways.
to you, though, too.
Thank
Hopefully,
you.
people are nice enough in the comments, can say congrats.
How'd this
Well,
fuck
at least the
engaged?
clap emoji.
Look, guys, there's hope, right? Like I'm here doing
Yeah.
a nerd podcast and I'm engaged. It's true. So
That
yeah.
there is, yeah, it gives hope. But no, it's good to be back. And honestly, do apologize for the break. And I think what we want to do is get back more into a flow, changing things up a bit to where I think spectator mode would be more of a weekly, bi-weekly thing, and then we'll have episodes as such coming at you guys a bit more staggered form or whatnot too. But either way, it's good to be back. Feels good. Can't take props to the Gallagher or Yoda. That's my brother-in-law's, but still, I feel like I get more
But
street cred with that behind me.
Yeah, you definitely do. It's a definite upgrade over whatever your background was. It was just your. Oh no, you had
It was
posters before though.
Yeah, I was just living in York, Central PA at that time, so it's kind
Yeah.
of just eerie, I guess, farmer ghost behind me. It's an old Amish house, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're catching up. So we're catching up with you. To be clear, 2 moves later, right?
Yeah. Drove all the way across the country to go to California from Pennsylvania in a little Fiat 500 too. So yeah, if you guys saw like a little white Fiat spinning out in a tornado in like Wyoming, that was me. I mean, I landed in California. So, but no, the drive out there was beautiful. Honestly, cried in South Dakota. True story.
Really? Why?
My brothers are giving me shit the whole time. Like, oh man, you're gonna break down and cry at 1.0. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm kind of an emotionless kind of person, I bury it all deep down inside, and then I'll be watching like a rom-com.
I've been repressing for years.
Yeah, I just cry at random moments. Maybe like a He-Man episode. I'll be like, oh god, it got me. Fuck.
So what got you in South Dakota though?
Sunset. As I passed the Badlands, South Dakota is a beautiful state. I was driving at the time of May, which was perfect timing. Sioux Falls is beautiful. Really wish I would have given myself 2 days in South Dakota, but I went from Des Moines and then drove all the way across South Dakota in this little Fiat one day. So stopped in Sioux Falls for a while. Beautiful town. Really wish I would have given myself time to just chill there. And then I was going to Rapid City because I wanted to see Mount Rushmore. I didn't have time to drive to the Badlands because the sun was going down. I didn't want to be on Interstate 90 after 10 hours of driving with the sun down. But I'm driving through the Badlands. And it just, those plateaus, everything else. I mean, when you see the country and all its, majestic nature, and you see how, broad this country is and just topography, it's just beautiful. It's just, you kind of forget you're in the States for a while. But the sun was setting, nice summer day. And it just hit me, man. It was just like, it was a good song. And it was just like, shit, I'm going across the country, chasing down, a dream I fought hard for. And, I'm also just by myself in a fucking Fiat staring at the sunset. Like it all just kind of hit me all at once. And beautiful kind of moment. But had a couple of those, I think, driving back then too, just with how things kind of worked out. But the drive back was equally beautiful. Went the southern route through Arizona. Wanted to go the old Wild West route through Arizona, hit Tombstone, but unfortunately there's some construction there. And then did Roswell, New Mexico. Wish I would have known it was the Hot Air Balloon Festival in Albuquerque. I ended up wanting to go see the White Sands, so I cut down through Las Cruces. But after Roswell, New Mexico is the scariest part of the whole trip for me. Straight
really?
Up.
I love New Mexico.
Yeah.
I went to Roswell as well because, as some people may not know, I used to live in Phoenix, Arizona. So I did the road trip out and the road trip back and stopped in Roswell, New Mexico.
You made great
Loved
time
it.
on both those, honestly. Because I remember when you went out. Yeah. I mean, you were much better than that. You just kept like going.
Oh yeah.
I made more stops, man. But yeah, and yeah, you had a little beater too at that time.
Yeah, I did. That car
Crazy.
was what was it, 96 Honda Civic that once I got to Arizona got stolen twice, actually. Still got it back and drove it back to Pennsylvania where I eventually junked it finally after parts had been ripped out of it and everything else. What was your experience in Roswell though?
Roswell was cool.
Okay.
Area 51 Museum, UFO Museum was super cool.
Yeah.
It was after Roswell. There was nothing. I'm on Interstate 40, and I'm talking. There was like two tractor trailers the whole time, and you kind of get the highway hypnosis and stuff as you're driving. But I'm like, if something breaks down, like there is nothing out here. You know what I mean? Like at least in Wyoming, when there's nothing, there's ranchers. I'm going through the oil fields. There's some sort of activity where like we have to walk maybe 10, 15 miles one direction. I'm going to find something. After Roswell, I was like, I'm not going to find shit except for maybe aliens. Now this is making more weight of like, I get the abductions coming through here. And like that to me, I was more terrified of just like, what the hell is going to happen until I find like any sort of civilization? I picked up historic Route 66, Amarillo, and the Cadillac Ranch. And Route 66 is beautiful and sad at the same time because it's like Yuma, perfect example of that too, of like these trail towns and the southern half of things. You realize how much commerce the train brought, and then it's just kind of forgotten. My Route 66 was the main highway to the west, and then the interstate, literally Route 40, basically what 10 miles, south of it, basically parallel, and it just took everything away from these towns. And driving through it was, rewarding in its own way, but extremely depressing to see. Of like they've never recovered. They hit their heydays, in a town like Yuma in the early and late 19th century, and then fell by the wayside, by mid 20th century. And the other towns by mid 20th century, it was just, you basically went from 1900 to 1960. Now is your peak, and nothing's changed. It's quite sad, but quite telling of America though too.
No, well, I had a similar experience going through like because I came across like northern Texas, Oklahoma, like that kind of way, flipping through a little bit.
Oklahoma's very windy.
Yeah, but a similar experience of just like you could just drive and just not see things around, just period, and it just goes on. You know what I mean? Like it's literally just landscape. It's not even. At least Texas, I saw like cattle ranches and stuff, so there was stuff going on that like I was confident that there was like civilization.
How bad was the smell?
I'm sorry?
How bad was the smell in Texas by the cattle, like the cattle, whatever they call it, the cattle country or cattle horn? It's like a weird name they call it.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting because like at one point I actually remember pulling over and stopping because I got to I assumed it was a meat processing plant essentially because it was this giant. It looked like what you would consider like a cartoon factory, right? Like it's got big smokestacks coming up and just like it's very industrial. And the cows are all just like lined up going and like going inside. And I was like, are they burning them? Like, what's going on? Like, is there a smell to and like there wasn't. It was just the normal, manure like of cow type smell that I couldn't smell anything from the processing plant, but like it was so different, right? Because it like when you're out there, there's this very natural feeling, very ascetic vibe of everything that like it seems very untouched wilderness type thing almost because there's not a lot built up on it. There's just the road. That's kind of it. And then I would see, for example, the cattle ranches and stuff. So you would see some fences and still very kind of like homey and country and stuff like that. Factory, just a giant factory dropped and like very industrial, like modern looking and everything else, and like old school like utilitarian modernism. Like we've made no compromises on looks here. This is all about function over form. Big giant block of metal just sitting there, and it seems so out of place. And I literally had to pull over and just stop and stare at it for a while because it was like giving me a real like head trip at the moment that I was going through all that.
So, how many stops like that did you make when you came back?
On the way back,
I drove out or came back.
So my situation on the way out, I was pursuing a very failed relationship. It was probably failed at that time, frankly. And then on the way back,
keep that down. Lynn's gonna come down the stairs and beat your ass.
Right? No, I mean she knows the story basically. But yeah, I thought things were gonna work out. Things were going somewhere. I was going to Arizona. They were, whatever. So I took my time going out there. So I had to stop pretty much every day. St. Louis, Chicago. I did the Sears Tower, not called the Sears Tower anymore, in Chicago, and the Millennium Bean. Did the Arch in St. Louis, Roswell, New Mexico. I stopped at. I tried to do something in Oklahoma. I thought there was a rodeo going on. I must have had the wrong date or something because it wasn't there when I got there, and I ended up in some very small town where a mildly famous country singer was from. Then they had like a small museum dedicated to him.
Awesome.
So whatever, I went through that and looked at some of the history.
I saw the rodeo museum when I was in Oklahoma. It was a little bit outside of Tulsa, actually.
Oh, I stopped at the Rock Hall of Fame in Ohio, Cleveland.
Nice, nice, nice.
And then swung down to Tucson and then up to Arizona. I forget what I did in Tucson. Something there as well. But the way home,
Tucson's a lovely town. I wish I would have had more time to chill there. I love Tucson. Glad I
Flagstaff as
stopped
well.
there.
Flagstaff, I only got to see a couple times when I was doing like Grand Canyon stuff living out there, but like very different environment too because it's up in the mountains, so big climate change.
Yeah.
But the way home, the relationship obviously didn't work out. I didn't know what I was doing. I had quit my job because I was serving tables and was like, this is not what I want to do with my life. What am I doing? And so I started kind of looking for a real job, but like not really wanting to put down roots in the area because I wasn't there because I ultimately wanted to be there. You know what I mean? And so when I came back, I was in a very bad way financially and everything else. So I just booked it. I drove. I did not stop anywhere. I took the shortest route home. I slept in Walmart parking lots. I didn't even pay for motels. I literally would like I
Truly cavalier.
pull over, just sleep in my car in the
Yeah.
Walmart park, get up and go and go and go and go. I think I made the trip back in like 2.5 days, 3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
Like
I remember, 'cause, yeah, you visited me in Pittsburgh on the way back, and
Yeah.
you made it there in like 2 days, maybe 3 days tops. And I was like, holy shit! 'Cause I remember you hit the road, and yeah, I mean, taking the drive out there solo one itself is terrifying and rewarding in the same breath. But the way you did it coming back, man, like a lot of props, because I mean there's a lot that goes through your mind anxiety wise, and like you just bury it down and just keep going forward, man. And like, you had a lot too on your plate at that point in time too, man. So
Well, and everything works out because here we are, how many years later?
oh Christ, I can't count,
You
So,
get the fingers out, Neil. It's
yeah,
okay.
no. And I was what, Pittsburgh. It's been what, almost 4 years since Pittsburgh now. Going on 4 years.
It would have been for me.
It had to have been at least 5 or
6
6 years ago, because that was
Yeah,
I was still in Pittsburgh for at least another year or two after that. So yeah, that's probably
I want
about
to say it was like
the
6 years ago because I think I met my fiance 5 years ago. We've been officially dating for 4.
yeah. So yeah, probably about 6 years then. Yeah.
So I think 6 ballparks it. So
Yeah, because I moved to York in 2018. So yeah, it had to be at least 6 then.
Yeah. So
Crazy. Time flies.
good things come from bad sometimes, and hopefully that is going to be the case with the revival of this podcast after it took its unfortunate break for
So
for life reasons.
yeah. So well, I was hoping for more stability when I was in California, but what you're gonna do? So, but I kind of think it's a nice segue into what we're gonna talk about today, which is anime, specifically Attack on Titan. And I think speaking of dead and revival, for me at least, a bit of background on my anime love. I actually Pittsburgh, my roommate in Pittsburgh, Heim, he's the one that really got me into anime. Even before I moved to Pittsburgh, he told me about Darker Than Black, and I think that kickstarted my love of it. Of like, oh wow, like anime can be a lot more than just DBZ and Inuyasha, which is basically all I saw on Toonami at that time. Because that was it's about what 24, 25 at that time, and anime was still very much, at least in my opinion, the elephant graveyard of like nerdom. Like you could be geeky and whatnot, but like if you liked anime, you were like, whoa, anime nerd, like
Yeah.
you're a fucking weirdo. You just didn't cross that bridge. Like,
Well,
it was like,
I don't know. I feel like there were some approved animes to like, which were basically Toonami ones. Where, like you said, Dragon Ball Z,
and
Inuyasha,
Cowboy Bebop too. Yeah.
Cowboy Bebop rocked out on there. Even like Sailor Moon and stuff for girls, but like I watched
Yeah.
that too. You know what I mean? It was
Sailor
in
Moon's
the
a
block.
classic,
Like,
yeah.
why not? But like I feel like those were okay because they were picked up on mainstream American TV. But like
Yeah.
going further down that rabbit hole, and especially watching things in Japanese, that was super nerddom, right? Like the idea of
Yeah.
like watching something in original Japanese with subtitles versus a dubbed version, that was very different. Like that
Yeah.
that was not so well looked upon.
Heim got me into anime, appreciating the genre a lot more, and really started with Darker Than Black, where I was like, oh wow, 3 episodes in, I'm kind of watching like what the hell's going on, and then everything just connected, and from there I was kind of like, okay, cool. It opened up a whole new genre for me, a whole new appreciation for the anime, the art form, the storytelling. And honestly, Attack on Titan, when him and I would actually watch when it first came out,
Really?
and we'd wait for the episodes and watch it together, kind of thing. We did that for a couple different shows, but I remember that we just kind of moved in together. That was Pittsburgh, what, 2014 is about when it came out too. So yeah, it was right about the time when
Was that when the
him and
original
I were
Attack
both
came
getting,
out?
I want to say so because I remember we were only in the apartment, like it was about the first year or so. So yeah, it had to be 2014,
I'm looking into it now because that seems.
2013 to 2014. Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong. I'm just
Yeah.
amazed that it's been going on this long, considering it doesn't feel so long to me.
Yeah.
Just my age coming through.
I feel like Attack too. It really, well, we'll go over kind of what we like about it too, but I feel it
2018,
still
yeah.
kind of hits. When did it come out? First
Uh,
season?
Anime. The first season aired April 2013.
Okay. Yeah,
Was the
there you
first
go.
season. Second season and third came out in 2017 and 2018 through 2019. I guess it ran. So like it really had a lull between the first season. Yeah, that fucking rock, man. That fucking rock, right?
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
shit. And then finally we got the seasons, and now I guess we're almost done with this ride.
Yeah. Well, the final season, well, final second half of the final season,
Yeah.
what, January 9th, so next month.
Yeah, season
But
season 4 part 2, January 9th, is in theory concluding everything that I think the actual manga has done as well. Like it's coming to the official end.
so I haven't read any of the manga. That's one thing I don't do much of is read the mangas, which I probably should get more into. But I remember seeing the first season though. I kind of come back to that. The art style of them, ziplining through the towns, and everything else, that hooks you. And I think every anime, when it is specific art style, even going back to like the Cowboy Bebops and Inuyasha's, the action sequences draw you in a certain way. And I think that's a bit more, subjective to each person and like what you like, especially the CGI components and everything else. But it was so fluid, Attack on Titan, and it was just mesmerizing to watch. But what pulled me in, and I think just because I'm a bit more cynical and like kind of the darker human expressions and definitely expressed in anime, was the anguish. And like I watched it subtitled, I don't watch it dubbed. And I've seen the American version dubbed, and like honestly, Aaron's voice I think ruins the show for me because he's so whiny and it's bad. But
In which version? In both?
in the English version and dubbed,
Okay.
the Japanese voice acting, I feel like that's what hooks with anguish in all their voices is really it pulled you in no matter what. Like you felt the horror, you felt the fear, you felt the rage bearing in on the side of all these guys. Mikasa, Aaron, Armin, all of them, and their children. They got attacked, and seeing their parents destroyed, all they ever knew, and like imagine what you would go through in a scenario like that.
I mean, so let's get this out there for anyone who is not aware. This is a spoilers podcast, right? If there's anything you haven't seen about this stuff, we don't hold back. We'll have discussions about everything that we think, feel, our predictions. And sometimes, at least in my case, I know I have a very bad habit when I'm researching for things, especially like these podcasts, I will end up reading more than I should. So spoilers are coming. Here's your chance to back out now.
Yeah.
Second thing I'll throw out there for anyone who hasn't seen Attack on Titan, I'll give you a real brief overview. But in the first season, it sort of opens up. We meet Eren and his family and his struggles. They live inside a walled town. Outside the wall lives what are referred to as Titans. They're these giant, sort of grotesque, almost looking humanoids that seem to not be smart, seem to have no real sentience, but they will attack and kill humans on sight just because. Right? There's not any real motivation or logic behind them. So I think first thing that draws me in is this sort of existential terror, right? Because like it's an unknowable thing that they're facing. This isn't one of those like villains that's been painted to be gray that like, oh, he could be a good guy in a certain light. It's not irredeemable evil of like, oh, it's just, obviously bad. They're just beings existing. And the consequence of them existing is that everyone lives in terror behind these walls, right? And then things start getting crazy from there. In the beginning, we have the hole, we have the basement, we have the key and all that stuff. We have the truth behind the Titans, and then in the final season here, we have the world at large. And so I think we're going to touch on a lot of that stuff as we're having our conversations. So if any of this stuff seems, again, spoilers, if this seems like stuff you're not aware about, this is where you want to be ducking out of the podcast. But I will come back to what you said. For me specifically, when you talk about like the art style, the eyes, man,
Yeah.
like if there was a way to capture that 1,000-yard stare in a drawing, they did it. They got it so
Yeah.
completely. Like that, just the way those people are just gone when they're dealing with their
It's
depression,
trauma,
dread, existent.
nonstop
Yeah,
trauma.
it
Boom.
really is.
Like,
It's legitimate PTSD. It's horrible.
yeah. Yeah. No,
Mm.
it does a great job of just conveying human emotions and again, just chaos, especially in those early seasons. And I think that's what really drew me in because a lot of it is, terrifying when you break it down. You see people just getting eaten and, the idea of these, humanoid, Titans coming in and just destroying everything And then too, the idea then too, essentially children soldiers have nowhere else to go. So you just channel your rage into basically becoming, part of the scout regiment, the only way to defeat these guys. And I think there's something alluring too of just, it's kind of this medieval, feudal age, you kind of Japan at the time, and you find out, Marley and Paradise Island, where they actually are. But there's still, hey, all you have is cannons, and no matter what, the only way you kill these guys is slicing, a sliver of their neck, which also seems crazy when you're talking they're, 100 stories tall. Like, how do you do that? And what I love about the show through all the seasons too, like other animes, you always kind of have the heroes that, OP and nothing
Yeah.
stops them, and no matter what,
So,
people get got constantly in this show. And what I love about it too is they're always aware too of how many lines they have or how many blades they have. And at a certain point, they're running out of ammunition. Almost every action sequence, too, there's still that tension of can they get this done in time? Because
mhm.
if they don't, there's going to be consequences. Those consequences tend to be a lot of your favorites getting got.
Yeah. And I have to agree with you because, like, the world building in Attack on Titan, I think, is phenomenal, right? Because it's a world which clearly has rules. We, as a viewer, don't understand them fully, especially not at the beginning. But like you said, like the cut on the back of the neck, for example, why that works, we don't know. We know it does. We know that's what you got to do to deliver a kill shot. So like you can cut off limbs, you can restrain them, like you can do all these other things, but ultimately it's got to be that right there at the base of the neck. It's a hard rule of the universe, right? Of the show. And they do such a good job even with their gear, like you said, that they're using to move through the trees and stuff to attack. That has rules. It uses gas tanks and air canisters. That runs low. Blades are detachable because they get blunted. There's a limited number of blades that they can carry with them and stuff. Like there's all these very clearly structured, like, hey, this is a real world different from our own, but not an isekai, right? Like this isn't like one of those, what you were kind of like, I think there's this trope now very common. I know isekais really, the Reddit user actually got very pissed off at me recently with this. I'll tell you. I was posting. I was on a Dungeons and Dragons forum having a conversation and talking about why people play Dungeons and Dragons, and I brought up the example of isekai that some people want a power fantasy. This person very much corrected me. He's like, that word technically means other world, does not have anything to do with how strong the character. And I was like, come on, dude. The common trope
Yeah.
is someone gets reincarnated, and like you said, they're just OP as hell. Right? Nothing presents a real challenge to them, or they're battling things that are like orders of magnitude stronger than anything else. None of that's at play here, right? Like these characters live in this world and they are very, very weak. And what you said, and again, I feel like I'm echoing a lot of your sentiments, and this probably is why we both love this anime so much, is like anyone can die at any moment. They don't have superpowers. They don't have magic skills. They don't have incredible technology or something to protect them. It's literally just like people trying to survive in a horrible and in some ways unknowable situation, because the characters, as much as ourselves, are presented this world and we're told to accept it because that's the way it is. Right? In the first season, at least, that's the way it is. It's the way it was. It's the way it always will be. And even Aaron, as the main character, thinking that there could come a day where the Titans could be vanquished and ultimately there can be peace and safety for everyone on the island. They don't need to live behind the walls, is a pipe dream in this show. You know what I mean? And what a basic thing to want, right? Like just the idea that like I can walk out and not be afraid of just
Well, it's
dying.
unintentional us talking about, cross country trips and some of, our life choices and decisions.
Yeah.
But I think, you brought that up, and the show does a great job of that, of thinking about your world and you're trapped behind a wall, no matter what, especially the pandemic and everything else. And you shrink that down that's depressing itself. Even if there wasn't the Titans, and it's just this idea of being trapped in this town, you can't go beyond these walls. And then the idea then too, when walls are breached and a town gets overrun, you have this unknown of, hey, I have to go, and that's that feudal part, which is interesting in the technology component, on horseback for 180 miles, whatever it may be, to the next town, and you don't know if you're even going to make it. And
Mhm.
it's like your ODM gear then also doesn't work depending on the landscape. So it's like imagine traveling across the country and you stop in Pittsburgh. I mean, it's like I have to get to Columbus in X amount of time or I will die. And that's another part of the show. I think they keep forwarding the narrative around. And to that, that's why it's always tense. Every episode tense. I think we can talk about the first half of the final season. But up until even that point, I felt like every episode of Attack on Titan always put me on edge. It put me on edge for which characters might die, put me on edge on what type of horrors I might have to see, this cast go through. And again, you said like the animation and that 1,000 yard stare, and then the Japanese voice act and the screams. Like the Japanese voice actor that voices Aaron, to me, like it's beautiful how he acts that, because it's not just anguish, like the rage he embodies in his scream. Like even when he transforms and everything else, like you get the hatred, but you also get the purpose he's doing that for too. And like, I still think that's a huge component of why I love this show.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the issues I've had recently, at least, is just the whiny main characters, right? Like they're objectively in great situations. They've got a harem of girls, they've got OP powers, like, and they're still just whining and crying about their situation. And Aaron, for me, in the first season at least, was a little bit that, but at least you understood why, right? Like he's in a legitimately shitty situation that's largely out of his control. You know, parents dead and everything else. Like he has a reason to be a little depressed and a little whiny. At the same time, he doesn't stay that way for all 4 seasons, right? Like I think he shows like legitimate character growth from the I'm going to end the threat. He's got all this confidence and stuff beginning, and then he starts seeing people die left, right, and center of just like
Mhm.
he's losing people, and then he gets that sense of hopelessness, and then he finds purpose again, and like he's going through, I think, good character growth, good character arcs. And the Aaron we see, like in season 4 now, for example, which I think we'll be talking about in a bit, is very, very different from season 1 Aaron. His attitude, even his demeanor, the way he talks and carries himself and everything has changed so dramatically because of everything he's gone through.
Um, I think you had a good point too early on, and again, kind of I think reasons why we both kind of fell in love with this anime. He has the Attack Titan. You find out about that, and it breaks the anime trope then of he's going to be the hero, nothing can stop him. You still see these massive failures, and then he's still considered the ace, and then the repercussions too of you know the military hierarchy Paradise has. And I think then too, like, the scout regiment and Levi, who's a complete G, and Hanj,
Yeah.
like, you have to constantly protect him. And then even that too, that role of, his childhood friends who naturally inherently want to protect him at all costs, regardless if he's a weapon or not, or weapon for salvation, whatever it may be. Armin and Mikasa are going to do whatever they can to save him. And, Aaron's done that too for, anybody that's coming through the ranks with them. But I think it's an interesting dynamic then too of how he almost gets babied then, and the resentment that you start seeing develop with that of, you're always supposed to be the trump card and you constantly get people killed. You're not really helping us out. And I think Levi especially, you
Mm-hmm.
know, resents him tremendously. We see that even take a whole new level this last season, which was cool to see. But I don't think I've ever seen that in an anime to where the main character goes through so much hatred and love at the same time.
Yeah, I mean Naruto flirts with it, but I don't think in the same way, right? Because like,
I haven't actually watched ever Naruto. I'll be
are you
honest.
serious? Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I run through Target like that, but I just don't watch the show.
Well, talking about extremes of nerddom that were not socially acceptable, right? No, well, because like with Naruto, a big part of it is before the show there are these rampaging tailed beasts, right? There's the 10-tailed beast originally. That gets broken down into 9 differently tailed beasts, the number of tails, whatever. And one of those tailed beasts, the 9-tail fox, is placed into Naruto. And the idea was that he was a weapon because he had this beast inside of him. He had increased chakra and strength and regeneration and everything else, like he would grow to be a weapon for his village. But equally, when they got the beast originally, it was because it was destroying the village. So all the resentment and all the negativity that people felt towards the beast was transferred to Naruto then, because now he is literally the physical embodiment of that. And so his story is one of very much like learning to use his powers and eventually winning the hearts of the village and stuff and sort of changing their minds. So there's some similarity there, but like I don't think it's the same because I don't think it's as double-edged as what we see with Attack on Titan. You know what I mean? Because like yeah, there's like
doesn't seem like as
moments.
much at stake either with Naruto, or at least there's, I mean, it was thousand some episodes, and that's just gonna get played out differently.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to go into all of that because it's a lot to discuss, but like ultimately, a lot of what the danger around the Nine Tail is his relationship with it and how he builds that relationship. You know what I mean? He's not like at risk at just like attacking his companions, for example. And then other organizations or groups trying to take that from him to use it for their own ends. So that sort of touches on the Attack on Titan thing a little bit in the sense of like people want Aaron's power. But I don't think it's comparable because it's not really double-sided. Like I said, like ultimately his having the tailed beast just makes him stronger and ultimately is why he's able to achieve as much as he does in the show. Where in the case of Aaron, like, yeah, he can turn into a Titan, but that presents its own risks and vulnerabilities. It also means that now he's become a target and everyone around him's a target. And like when he's using that power, like actively employing it, we see constantly that he's not able to protect his friends. Like he's not able to fight as a Titan while protecting other people. And so they're out and just at risk because they have to be there with him. Like, again, like, they literally have to take care of him until he gets to the moment when he can transform or he can employ his powers or whatever. And then they're doing their own things and fighting their own battles. And he's, essentially just painted a giant target on everyone's backs.
Yeah. Which I mean, I think is a good segue to it with how the first half of season 4 starts. And even you said too, that idea of everybody wants his power. And that's kind of how it starts though, is Aaron trying to acquire new Titan powers. And I think we can get to what we think things are going to wrap up with, but what did you think when you first watched the first episode, season 4? And, what stayed with you? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Yeah, I'm sure that first episode you were like, fuck yeah.
Well, so the first episode, I think this was where, and so I kind of talked about this before of like, as we discover the world, right? Like there's clearly rules, there's this world at large. And at first it's very, God, there's like a literary reference that I'm missing here, but like, right, like his world is defined by literally the walls of the city he lives in at first. Eventually they expand that to outside the walls and the immediate area around that as they're fighting. They eventually get to the sea. And that's when you sort of realize like, hey, they're actually on an island. Because until that moment, you had no idea if they were in a continent, if they were on an island, like you had no idea like geographically where this was because it's such a small area that they're stuck in the entire time. Mm-hmm. And so season 4 is like when we finally get the perspective of like, oh no, this is a whole world, not so different from our own with a few key changes, right? And we get to look at other cities. We get to see the technology that they have, much more modern, far more modern compared to Paradise Island, which we now know the name of is where Aaron was, right? And we get a sense of the larger world war that's going on at play, largely ignoring all the struggles that are going on that we've been witnessing for 3 seasons are kind of like inconsequential to the world at large, right? Like it's there in the back of their heads as like a problem, but like it hasn't been actively a problem for a long time. So it's mostly ignored by them. And it's Aaron who is trying to escalate things, getting off the island, and like you said, like going to try to capture more Titan powers. And I thought that was an absolute trip, right? Because like now we've sort of flipped the script in terms of who's the aggressor, who's the good guy and the bad guy a little bit. And Aaron comes out not looking so great, right?
Yeah.
Like the way he acts. Yeah,
we first
when
see
we
him,
finally
he's
see
missing
him,
like
it's
a
about
leg
halfway
and
through,
stuff,
right?
and he's playing, incognito, and he's in disguise and whatnot too. Because we see the World War, and we see Marlin, we see
Mm-hmm.
Raynor, and all these guys too. And I'll get to my hatred for Raynor. He's just a punk ass bitch. But
What about Zeke? How do you feel about Zeke?
oh, Zeke can suck a dick. I hate him too, man.
Really?
Yeah, I hate Zeke. Yeah, I want him to die the worst death in that
That's
fucking
crazy,
show.
man. I like
Yeah,
Zeke.
I listen. How that leaves with him and Levi too. I'm like, I hate Zeke with a passion. Him and Gabby, I think they should just
Gabby, I
die.
hated.
I'm not one for people being crucified in a show. I think they both deserve to be crucified in this show. It doesn't matter. Like they both need to die, like gruesome deaths, in my opinion. I can't stand either one of them. But Zeke, I hate that he's gonna even how I think it's gonna play out. I feel like he's somehow gonna still alive, and he's a hemorrhoid character. He's a character you just hate and you want to go away, but he just fucking lingers on like a goddamn like dingleberry.
I
I
mean,
can't
he's
stand him.
Aaron's bio brother, right?
He's
Like
a fucking punk, man. He
family. This is the Fast and Furious movies. Family.
no, he's just all he does is just play it safe the whole time. And he's like he plays more the anime trope that I hate because it's just like this character that somehow always magically one step ahead. And it's just like he always pulls some bullshit rabbit out of the hat. And it's like enough, dude. Like you got put in a corner how many times, you get punked out how many times, and somehow you just magically can just pull one over on somebody. Like it's bullshit. He's a terrible character. I hope he dies. Like if he doesn't die, that might ruin the whole season for me. If like him and Gabby manage to live, I might say Attack on Titan, one of my favorite animes, is now like in the dumpster for me. That's how much I hate both of those
Seriously,
characters.
why?
Yeah.
Why such? Because like Zeke.
I mean, Gabby, I don't think I need to explain. I don't think I need to
No,
explain that.
Gabby, I think is a real bitch, and in Doctor. I mean, she is going to
Yeah.
live though, right? Like
Falco,
they're trending
Falco,
very
I
hard
like.
that
Falco,
way.
I feel like does what they're trying to do with Gabby. Not as aggressive naturally,
Right.
but it works because he actually is showing character development and growth and actually situational awareness. Whereas Gabby's a homicidal maniac, man. She came after Sasha's family with a pitchfork and she was like, hey, man, you hungry? You want some eggs? And she's like, I'll kill you. Like, it was fucking crazy. And it's
But that's
like,
the point they're trying to make, right? Like they're Falco and Gabby are meant to be foils of each other of what Eldians look like or could look like raised in the system. Do you question it? Do you doubt it? Do you maintain in your heart some flame of independence, as apparently Zeke has done for all these years? Or do you submit? Do you submit to the brainwashing? Do you go all in? Fucking Gabby, man. Like, is she crazy? Absolutely. Did I fucking hate when she killed my girl? Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And that just drove me nuts too. Cause it was like, if that's me, I don't care. We're in a wartime scenario. Off the goddamn Zephyr. Like that's it. You're gone. Like I don't need you on this the Hindenburg they were driving. Well, Zephyr's the proper term, but
Yeah.
Zeppelin, sorry, Zeppelin. And like as soon as she got there, like it made me mad they kept her alive because it was just like, and also too, like our first introductions of Gabby, she basically makes these like two insane, like nobody could ever make shots. And it's just like, so we have some super soldier basically that like perfect marksman, no matter like what the angle is, she just gets these bullshit shots off. That made me mad. It's like you got not just one, but two of those already in like the first 4 episodes. Like, eat a dick, get out of here. Like she's trash. And the whole
No,
pitchfork
I
scene,
mean, I think that
her
was
trying to come at the
more.
family of just someone trying to be like, hey, you hungry, little girl? Want a piece of bread? And she's like, I'll cut you where you stand. Like, again, in my house, my ranch, that's cool. You want to come at me like that? You're off my property. Good luck out there in the wild, little girl. I don't give a shit. Falco, you cool? Hey, man, have 2 pieces of bread, man. You're
Well,
not coming at me with a
remind me though,
pitchfork.
didn't they realize that she had to be
They
from
did come
the
around and
military? Like
realize
they
she was.
knew,
Yeah. Which
they
also,
had a
too,
sense.
hey, we're still, being hospitable towards you. She's just a shitty human being, really.
Yeah, I mean, when she killed Sasha, I really lost my shit. I think, I mean,
And the whole
Sasha.
indoctrination thing, too, with the Marlene
Yeah,
basically being, it's in
they
the
don't
Holocaust.
play her shit off though as skill, right? Like when she pulls off the assault on the base or whatever in the opening sequence in the fortress, when she is able to shoot Sasha, for example, it literally is just a fucking wild attempt. And like the idea that she doesn't see value in her own life, right? Like she's completely willing to die for the cause, and so be it. You know what I mean? So like what purpose does she think? She thinks she has no purpose besides this war and potentially inheriting one of the named titans, and that's just her
Yeah.
view. Like it's not like she's a crack marksman or anything like that. It's literally a child who is going to risk it all because she's got nothing else, literally nothing else to look forward to in her life.
Well, that's what she's indoctrinated with, and it's again, yeah, it comes back to World War II, the Holocaust. Like Malays are definitely the Jewish population. They're kept in. They have the numbers. It's direct kind of correlation there too.
Literally
This
in
idea that
ghettos, like we saw that, like sectioned off and everything. Yep.
And the indoctrination then too of like, even though you're working for the enemy, you can still rise the ranks and be a Titan, and that's what she's at. And there is a sympathetic arc going there too, to where it's kind of going parallel to Aaron's whole worldview, and most of the people in the scout regiment too, of they're indoctrinating their own idea of paradise. And I think my favorite episode in the first half was the Devils of Paradise episode. I think it was episode 4 or 5, to where all hell breaks loose. And we see the scout regiment come in, and they're flying the ODM gear, and it's that massive battle sequence after when Aaron finally unleashes from the cell he's in, or the basement he's in with Rayner, and they basically get everybody. They get all the Marleyan Titans and just end it. Like, that episode was just OG Attack on Titan. And again, you saw all of like your favorites that you're well connected with from the last 3 seasons get their due, and it's like, hell yeah, like put an end to it. I mean, Zeke gets like messed up. Crab leg Titan, what the hell's her name? Peck. She also can't stand her, the fact that she's still alive. I hope she dies a gruesome death as well. I really don't like any of the Marleyans. Yeah, like I don't like any of their characters. I also just don't like how this season ended either, and that's kind of partial to my hate to it. Yeah. I mean, I'll get to that, but like,
yeah, we will.
I liked the Devils of Paradise episode because it again like brought everything in, and it was like, okay, cool, shit's gonna hit the fan. These guys are just taking the fight to them finally. But then you also see too, like they're exactly what they hated. They're in this foreign country now, basically acting like Titans, wreaking havoc, and you see that parallel. And then it creates a monster like Gabby, because that's ultimately what she is. Is a monster, indirectly, and some of her own volition, but it's still a lost child syndrome.
Yeah, and so big spoilers here, but we finally get the real backstory on the Titans, where they come from, and everything else that's going on. And what we learn essentially is that, for reasons still unknown or not fully known, someone gained the power to transform into these Titans, and they were like the king of their people, and their entire nation inherited this power to some extent, right? So it's a genetic thing. It's passed down through the blood, and we learn that there are the different Titans with their powers more than what we knew. So like the Colossal Titan we've known about for a long time now. Obviously the Armored Titan we knew. The Female Titan we knew. We knew Aaron was special. We've learned now that he's the Attack Titan. And we finally learn what the fuck is up with the coordinate and everything else when they're like dealing with all that stuff, because Aaron gets the King Titan essentially, right? Like he is able to command them all, but he's not of the royal bloodline. And this presents one of the central conflicts of the 4th season, which is King Fitz made a vow that there would be no more war. And because he made that vow and things are inherited through blood and everything else, like it has been passed down, and anyone of royal blood who is the King Titan essentially forces all the Titans to stick to that vow, to stay on Paradise Island, that they don't leave, they don't go anywhere else, and they don't go to war with any other nations. The fact that Aaron has it, he's not bound by that vow because he's not of royal blood. So he's free to do whatever the flying heck he wants to anyone he wants. And so what was sort of a boogeyman for the Marleyans for a long time has become real, especially in that moment, right? Like it's in the middle of a festival, they're all there celebrating or whatever, and Aaron just erupts out and starts wrecking everything. And what was in theory this like almost forgotten thing on Paradise Island, right? Because they had settled into this, we've got our ghettos, we've got everyone separated, and and now we're having like a wild Titan attack. Most people there probably haven't experienced it in their lives. It's shaking up their entire worldview essentially, because something that was maybe a forgotten thing has become a very present issue in their world. And it comes back to what you're saying. Are they now becoming the aggressors or perpetuating the issues and things that they suffered on Paradise Island? Are they now doing this to other people? Right? Yeah. Are they being the monsters that they have been described as being?
Yeah. Well, because like too, we have the whole conflict of, Paradise was basically Australia for, context is basically a prison colony.
Yep.
And now you have these prisoners and these low lives coming into Marley and taking over. And I think that, again, I think it was a little bit after Devil's of Paradise episode 2. It comes back to the point where we talked about the eyes and the animation. But when Titan completely just owns the Jaw Titan to crack open the Warhammer, one of the best scenes all of last season, with this first half of this last season.
Really?
Like, to me, that was awesome because he just completely owns him. And it's, again, like one of their aces. The Tank Titan gets owned by just humans and sharpshooting and our girl Sasha. And it's, awesome in its own way. And again, like, these Titans are used too as Marley's ace. They just see them win a massive battle and turn the tide of a war. And that's what they've always done. And they basically just get surprised in their own backyard and are manhandled by basically just one Titan. And you see that fear in the Jaw Titan's eyes and in Peck's eyes of the Tank Titan. And, like, to me, that was super well done. Again, why I hate Zeke. Like, Zeke gets completely owned by Levy. And it's like, hell yeah. It's just like, oh, I'm part of my plan. Ooh. He's such a fucking lame. Like, I can't stand him. Like, just put a bullet in his head. Like, I wish Levy's brother Ackerman was still alive. Like, he wouldn't be letting him hang around anymore. Kenny would have fucking copped his ass fucking decades ago, man.
Well, in some ways, I think that's the struggle Levy's dealt with through all 4 seasons, essentially, right? Because he would rather just kill Eren straight up. Like, in his mind, any value I think that Eren has as a tactical thing is outweighed by the danger he poses.
Out of his patience with him. Yeah, I think he was understood, especially out of this season, no mas. But Levy's still my favorite character. I like Eren a lot too. I actually like Eren's role right now. The Jaegerists make me mad a bit, but again, we kind of get to the theories and what this last season is going to hold. But anything else with the first half that you were digging, didn't like character wise? You liked some of the arcs. I mean, Raynor had a big arc. He's still a bitch in my eyes, but we got to see a different viewpoint for him.
Yeah, I mean, the way they, first of all, I usually don't like when we do flashbacks as extensively as this season did, right? Because it completely recontextualized our understanding of what was going on with the Titans originally, the Colossal Titan with Reiner and oh man, the name's escaping me now. I know they're.
I had them all write them down before we started recording. Honestly, yeah,
that's a fucking cheat. You're cheating.
How is that cheat? No, listen, it's been a while since I've watched it's been a year, and it's like, Christ, man. There's a lot of different characters. A lot of people get got. There's a lot of Japanese and German names in there. That confuses me. I'm just like, what's going on here? Are they Germans? Are they Japanese? Are they Jewish? Yeah. I don't know, man. I haven't seen a single like Schmaltz or Stein in there.
That's so
but
funny.
Like, we got Mikasa hanging around. Like, what's going on? Like,
she's very very Japanese name for her. So the Colossal Titan, Armored Titan, and Female Titan obviously are the ones that we see are the aggressors in the beginning seasons with no explanation. We get that now. And what I'll say for me that was interesting, and this is maybe why I don't hate Zeke as much, is Zeke presents a very compelling plan in the sense of like, ultimately, I think it could work. At the same time, it's a very shit plan, right? Because your comparison to the Jews is perfect.
He's an egomaniac, man. That's all. He just wants to be. It's a whole savior complex, and he's just a dingleberry human being, man. He played the safe route. Even him getting the Titan was just like, you're just pathetic human being that basically just played catch, and all of a sudden you granted like the golden goose. Like,
season 4, I think, has put us in the situation, and this is where I think we can maybe transition to our conversation about part 2. What is the ultimate resolution for the situation on Paradise Island, right? Because Eren, the one thing I'll say for him is he's been consistent that what he wants is peace for everyone on the island, that they can walk outside the walls without concern. But what that looks like is transformed, right? It originally in his mind was eradicating all Titans was going to be enough to have peace. And then they learn that there's this whole world out there that basically hates them. And it's not a question of if, it's a question of when they're going to come to exterminate every single person living on that island. So just killing the Titans there isn't good enough. There needs to be some sort of more final solution, if we can throw that word in there a little bit, of like, how do we resolve this issue? And Eren is persuaded, I think in large part, by Zeke to look beyond the island, to look at the world at large, and to find that final solution. Zeke's idea Oh, I don't want to spoil anything. You tell me what you think Zeke's idea was originally, because I know what it was. I just don't know if it was
I
said in
think
the
Zeke.
anime.
I think Zeke wants to be in the position Aaron is in. I think he wants to have all the cards and basically just rule. I think that's Zeke's ultimate goal. I think Zeke keeps playing everybody, acting like he's Samantha here, and I also think he wants to control the channeling. And I think he is. Am I getting it right? The channel. What is it? The fuel they have that the Japanese
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
representation
It's the
wants.
floating stones or whatever they use.
Yeah, I think that's all Zeke wants to play. And again, he wants to bullshit martyr savior complex. He just wants to basically get rich and control things. He's an egomaniac, megalomaniac. I think we see it constantly. And he's put in these positions where he seems to always have one up on everybody. And he knows, Peck and the Tank Titan, I'm sorry, Jaw Titan, they are all indoctrinated. He's going
Porco,
to
I
follow
think, was that guy, right?
his lead.
That one.
And I think he plays that. And I think we're nearing his completion for that. And we have, the anti-Malanes in Paradise 2. That was it. Yelena was the female looking like haircut, but it was like a dude. Or is it a chick with a dude's haircut?
Oh. No, no,
Um,
it is a chick. The one who's
yeah.
like in love with Zeke basically, and like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
do
And
whatever he
like
wants.
the sleeper cells, and he basically has his own cult and stuff. And also, too, I hate his scream. Like when Levi had him dead to rights, and he's like, "Oh," it's such a bitch ass scream, and it's just like, good God, you can't even do a war
specific
cry like a
thing.
fucking man. And it's just like, good God, I can't stand his character, man. He's just screaming like a little bitch, and like is able to get out of it. Or is he? Because then Levi still kicks his ass. But then again, too, he's seen as a lump basically. Spoilers. And then, he pulls out a fucking grenade with his teeth. Like, dude, just die already, man. Just fucking die. Like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like, come on. It's just ridiculous. But no, with now I'm losing my train of thought. I'm going on such a Zcation.
The rage really flows through you, man.
Dude,
Like,
I
you
can't
really...
stand his character. Him and Rainer, I just it drives me nuts, man. My biggest beef with the first season, though, and I'll get to kind of what I'm hoping happens, because what I think Aaron's doing is different than what Zeke wants. I think Aaron's playing along with it. And if they go this route, I really think it sets up Aaron for a beautiful character arc in a lot of different ways and a great main character for the show. I didn't like the first season. Part of it, I think, is just dragging it out. So viewership and everything else and the marketing component, but it went in one giant circle. The Devils of Paradise episode kind of like was, the climax for season 4. And then it just kind of went in one big circle. We see all these flashbacks. And then it basically has Marleyans coming back to season 1, basically, and bringing the fight back to them. And it's kind of like, well, now you infiltrate with all this stuff going on, surprise attack. We find out, they kind of knew the workings of Paradise government and sleeper cells in itself. And it just kind of repeat itself. And I didn't like that it just did this one big arc. Mainly too, because it had Gabby kind of pushing that narrative along too, with indoctrination of like this different viewpoint. And then we took this long drag to go in basically one big circle without too much action, when we are waiting for this just to culminate in a bloodbath. And one or two people are basically going to be left over. That's kind of how it has to end. I feel like we all watching it expecting that. And we didn't see any of that in the first staff. We just saw that it's supposed to be this one big plan from Zeke. And then, Paradise takes the fight to them, and then it just flip flops to Marlene's taking the fight to Paradise with more purpose than they previously did, because Rainer again does what he always does, which is fails because he's a bitch.
So I double checked, and I it was in the anime, so this isn't any future spoilers. Zeke's plan is essentially to kill all the Eldians, like functionally. He wants to use the power of the founding Titan, which is able to command, control all other Titans, all other Eldians, to render them sterile so they cannot reproduce. And because we know that this is an inherited power, the idea is that they will just all naturally age, die, and be gone at that point. And the world at large will be saved from the Eldians. The threat of the Titans will be gone from the world, and it'll just be over. And that's his plan, and that's what Aaron supposedly is backing at the moment right now, right?
Do you think Aaron's doing that though?
So here's what I'll say. I'm balancing this a little bit because I did read a few things here and there that have given me a more informed opinion, and so I don't want to give unintentional actual spoilers. What I'll say is a couple things. I'll say two things. I think two predictions I'll make. The first prediction I'll make is I will remind everybody that the founding Titan has the ability to alter memories. It's one of the ways they kept the secret and why the Eldians didn't know anything about the world outside. Like all that information just seemed to have been lost or disappeared because the founding Titan that's one of his powers, which it makes it one of Aaron's powers. So what that means for me is that immediately how things appear on the surface can be called into question because we don't know what people know, right? Are they remembering things accurately or are they remembering altered memories and stuff? And so I think that throws into doubt maybe some people's actions and why they're acting the way they are and how much of things might be manipulated behind the scenes. Second thing I'll throw out there, I do not think, and this I don't know this, but I do not think Aaron is going along with this plan ultimately, because I don't think it's a solution to effectively kill everyone, right? Like what you're doing is you're killing everybody, whether you do it today or you do it tomorrow, or you're doing it 20 years from now or 100 years from now when people just get old and die. Like that's what it is. So what that means when you put those two things together, I wonder if Aaron fucked with Zeke's memories or not. Because in theory, if Aaron's got the founding Titan, like I get a lot of this plan came from Zeke originally, but I wonder if Aaron didn't fuck with that in some fashion to either alter the plan or make him forget things. Like how trustworthy or how much faith do we put in that, Zeke's memory of what happened and everything else is accurate? How much of that could have been manipulated?
Yeah.
I don't know.
While you were talking, I kind of wrote this down too, because my hatred for Zeke is very similar to, we did the Mass Effect episode, my hatred for the Reapers. It's just we've seen 3 seasons of the Scout Regiment trying to get rid of this douchebag Sasquatch. So it's like, I'm all in for the get rid of him. He's the villain, in my opinion. So it's like, all calls. We're here to do one job. But interesting point with Aaron bringing up and changing his Zeke's, mindset and memories. But what I think Zeke, to me, I think is getting played by Aaron. I think what Aaron's doing, and it's a perfect anti-hero kind of arc because we see him become the villain. We see Mikasa and Armin starting to, their loyalty and trust in him is wavering. And Levi's is definitely gone. And even Hange too. She's kind of like, should we still be protecting this guy? Should we not be? I think Aaron's painting himself as the villain and taking it on. I think Aaron wants to control all the Titans, eat them all, and have it all die with him without killing the Eldians. And I think he wants to just destroy the Titans and him control all the powers and him basically go in the sunset and die. I think that's what he wants to do. And I think he's taken the mantle on for himself to be that villain, which is ultimately the hero without more lives lost. And it makes sense with Aaron too, because it's, again, he has this rage and it's, again, it's kind of, martyr suicide thing too, but it also destroys a lot of fabric that makes him, Aaron, and such a lovable kind of character throughout most of the season of he still wants to protect everybody and still have these relationships. But will he be able to get there? Because we also see Mikasa now teetering in the line of her and Levy on their own world as far as, combat and everything else.
Yeah.
I think it kind of foreshadowed of Mikasa's ready to take that shot on Aaron, where she never would have before. I think she's teetering on that now, where she's realizing she may have to kill him. So it's like, will Aaron be able to get there and get to what his goal is, eating all the Titans? Will Mikasa recognize that, or will something again get thrown in the mix? Because we have Annie's going to get, Annie's still alive. We know all the Titans are going to come back basically in paradise. It's going to be an all-out battle this season. I think it has to be. I don't think it can do the whole loop like it did this first half. But who's really going to win? That's what we're seeing.
So here's the question I'll throw to you, because it's a very interesting and compelling theory. It fits with his character, the martyr and everything else, the savior. If he does assume all the powers of like the 9 Titans and then fucks off and dies, can the Eldians still just turn into Titans though, like regular Titans?
I don't think so, because if he has a founding Titan, he can erase the memories. And you have to eat a Titan to inherit its powers. if it's not passed down, it will die. That's what we're seeing with Reiner and his fear with Falco and Gabby, because again, the power will just die.
Yeah, but when they're kamikazing, when they're just kamikazing out of the airship, right? The Zeppelins, and they're just like jumping out. The regular Eldians transform into the wild Titans that we've seen, right? Like the smart Titans, the 9, those can all be specifically inherited. But if he takes all of those and then dies, wouldn't that just leave a bunch of uncontrolled or potentially uncontrolled Titans? Like, they've shown that like you don't just change for no reason, but like the change is there. It's like a possibility, right?
But if no one's doing, Zeke's baby scream of, no one's changing. Because aren't they all infused with his blood? So again, if like you have that, Aaron eats him, and no one has that scream, you can still have the blood change, but there's no trigger effect. Unless there's something there I'm missing there too.
I see what you're saying. No, I'm trying to remember that, because I think that's I'm trying to remember if
and that's
all
what
of
pissed me
their
off
transformations were
and,
triggered by his yell.
Yeah.
And the other ones on the island
Yelena
are all dropped there, right? Like they're all criminals that are all dropped.
Yeah, and then they're injected and changed, yeah.
Yeah.
Which goes back like decades, centuries, whatever.
Right. So in theory, right, if you get rid of the Beast Titan and like that bloodline specifically, like Zeke's bloodline, which he's one of the royals, right?
That's a good question. I think he is. I forget, to be honest with you. There's a lot to the whole family lines and everything else to where like it gets in the weeds for me as well. That's why you make fun of me writing the names down. It's just like there's a lot of, we get to choose a lot of new characters too this past season, and I'm like, oh shit. We haven't really talked about his story either, because she's royal blood and she's a big factor in this, especially I think this last.
And she's Pregos, isn't she?
She is Pregos, yeah. Congratulations. Well, I thought you were laughing more with that one. Okay, man. You made a face like not a bad joke.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, because ultimately,
like you never watched hentai on
in the way thing. Jesus Christ. No, it's because when you think about it, what kind of life is their child going to have with the way things are trending?
Yeah.
Why can't I find? I thought I had all.
Because I think Zeke's goal too is to kill her. Because I think Zeke's the megalomaniac straight up. I don't think he has any. He's a self-serving villain.
Yeah, Zeke is descended in some fashion from Carl Fritz, who was the original founding Titan that did everything. So he is of a special bloodline. So like arguably anyone from Fritz's bloodline would have to be eliminated. So you wouldn't have to sterilize all Titans. You might be able to get away with sterilizing or removing just royals.
Yeah. Who do you think is going to be left standing at the end of this show?
All right. Levi, I think we'll make it.
I think fans will be pissed if we start the season off without him.
I think Mikasa will make it.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because I think there's too much they can do with her relating to Eren for her to just die seems.
And she's an Ackerman too, so
right. Like it seems too easy to me that she just dies, right? Like we find out that she's got some foreign royal or nobility in her blood and stuff, so she's got meaning on the world stage. She's an Ackerman, which is its own special thing that we already know about. She's obviously infatuated with Eren. Like, if they just kill her, I will frankly be so disappointed with all the potential they've put behind this character and the ways they could use her. And I'm more like what you pointed out, too, of how she's maybe finally coming around on the idea that Eren needs to be eliminated, like he's a problem. And if she kills him and then what, like suicides herself, fucking Romeo and Juliet would just be so cliche. I'd be so utterly disappointed if that's how it went down. So I want to see what they do with her, and I hope it doesn't just end with her being dead. I think Armin will make it.
Really?
Yeah,
as the Colossal Titan still.
Well, that's that because that directly contradicts your theory for the last season. Is he currently is the Colossal Titan? So like for your plan of like Eren to inherit everything and like let it die with him requires him to kill Armin.
Which comes in the Mikasa realm of like, if
then
they
would
don't
that
know what
be
he's
Mikasa
doing,
then goes in on Eren finally because
and that's the mixing man with Zeke, because it's like Zeke just again benefits from just hanging on.
I mean, but if that's the case,
If he's
though,
still alive at that point in time.
if your prediction is right, then like Aaron would have to kill Zeke to inherit Beast Titan. You'd have to kill Armin. Armin goes down, maybe triggers Mikasa finally of like Aaron's a lost cause. Mikasa pops off, finally kills Aaron, and then everything dies with Aaron there because like we've eliminated now like all the major players. Although I'm not quite sure how Historia and her baby factor into this stuff.
The Historia component is tricky too, because I can see this playing out too. Of I wouldn't be surprised if the Marlenians just outright win. They have the advantage now in Paradise, which we didn't see coming really going into the season.
That's
but
funny. Just all this struggle to ultimately just lose at the end.
Yeah, which kind of fits the whole
Oh,
trauma
man.
and like sadness of Attack on Titan, which I would hate because that means Zeke wins.
It's
and
so
he's like
unsatisfying. Yeah.
It would be, but a lot of signs point to that though, because they already have the inside track. They could easily kill Historia. If Zeke's still around, all he needs to do is basically go to a city center and do a scream, and then everybody changes. But Annie's the wild card here because that gives them an advantage to go toe to toe with Aaron as the attack Titan.
Mm-hmm.
And they infiltrated everybody already with the Jaegers, And big component we have here too is there's fractions between like Levi, the Scavenger and Hanj as well. Not everybody's on the same page that they were before because again, there's so much going on. So in my opinion, at least the Marlenians have the upper hand because all they need to do is create chaos. And there's so much, so many splinters within the Eldians and members of Paradise. All they got to do is basically win a couple of battles and they're in the driver's seat. A lot needs to go right for Aaron and like my theory to work. I don't know if we're going to get there. I'd love to see it. But again, I feel like it could easily just be a showdown between like, Zeke and the Ackermans basically with Mikasa and Levi.
Well, how many Titans does Aaron have right now? He's got the Founding Titan, the Attack Titan. He's got the
Warhammer
Titan.
Titan. Yeah. And I think that's it.
The Colossus is currently Armin. Armored Titan is Reinhard or Reiner.
Reiner, yeah. He's
female is Annie. Beast is Zeke.
Oh yeah, because Reiner has a new power and stuff too now too. Doesn't he? Isn't it like foreshadowed towards the end? He's like evolved a bit with his power.
Oh, I don't remember actually. Check.
Well, because that.
Where's the Jaw Titan right now? Is Porco still the Jaw Titan?
He is, yeah. I'm trying to think of the scene. Maybe it was when they're still on Marley. But when they're all crying out for like Reiner to help, and Reiner's basically just giving up. Again, that's the reason why I hate Reiner too. Like he gives up, and then it's just like he doesn't want to be the hero. He just wants to sit there and die. He's a very pathetic character. Yeah. Then he's just like, oh, I can't let Falco and Psychopath Gabby down. And then he finds some inner strength. Yeah. He's like, I can't stand him. But the mix here too is though, if Falco or Gabby inherit any of the powers, which is still possible, that throws a gambit in there. And it could very easily, everybody dies. And then, Gabby or Falco is left. And it's like, which viewpoint? Because I think they hinted at a lot too, which is why I don't like Gabby.
Yeah.
Because she's definitely a crutch. But it's like, is it going to end on Falco to where he comes with some savior component of like, hey guys, what we're doing is wrong. And, drives peace, which is kind of lame and stuff too. But he's in there and they're clearly, not going away anytime soon. Or are they going to die somewhere along the lines and, be catalyst for something else? A lot needs to happen this final couple episodes.
I mean, for you, everyone has to die.
Yeah. As
you've described it, literally everyone just has to die completely. I guess we can look forward to the fact that it's probably going to be a longer part 2. The part 1 that's already aired was 16 episodes, which is longer than the traditional like 12, 13, I think that most get. So kind of implies that we're going to see the same maybe in the part 2. You know what I mean? Like if they had to stretch one out, probably going to have to do it for the others. So there must be a lot of material to get through still. I look forward to it though. Really do.
No, same. I'm excited for it.
To an end.
I just hope this one's a lot more action than those first 16 episodes. And I get it. It just was dragged out and like I want to see nonstop action like we saw in the first season and season and a half of season 2.
Yeah. Well, and I mentioned as well that like I don't like the flashbacks to like recontextualize things. I did like the information. I was happy to have the information and understand better the world at large and what was going on. I didn't like the way it was necessarily delivered. Because this is one of my gripes about all forms of media and entertainment. I hate when characters start talking about things they don't know, or no, rather that they do know, as if they don't.
Yeah.
Like, oh, is that Joe? Isn't Joe the king of this or that? And, and then they just like have this like long conversation about things that like you have to fucking know this. You live in this world. This is your world. Like, why are you discussing this? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Or like shows with magic, like they have those characters that are like discussing the rules of magic for like no apparent reason. You're casting spells. You have to know how this works.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I remember that from school. Like, shut the hell up. And like
Yeah.
I guess I prefer the flashbacks over the stupid expositions, the info dump expositions. I guess. But my issue with flashbacks then is what happened here is it really throws off the pacing. It really throws off the pacing, especially when you get into the weeds as much as they did, I think, because like you flash back a lot. You go through
Yeah.
like you're going through the first 3 seasons from a separate point of view, essentially, and even a little before that, before the Titans come to Paradise Island and everything else. So that's a lot to flash through, and it felt clunky.
All right. 2 questions. One,
Okay.
favorite characters, and 2, what would you rate the show so far without the conclusion? And anything needs to happen for you for that to change up or down? I guess that's 3 questions.
Okay. Favorite characters. I'm gonna go with actually 2 characters here that I like for similar reasons. Levi. I'm saying it's stupid. Levi and Kenny.
No, those are 2 of my favorites too. I'm straight up with you. I mean, Casa and then pretty much all the Ackermans and Aaron. Those are probably my 4.
Yeah, because
Hanj is in there too. I like Hanj a lot.
do you?
Yeah.
Because like I think what I like about them, and maybe this is the same thing for you and Hanj, I don't know, is the characters stay very true to their own values. First of all, you know what I mean? Like it's not like people they don't compromise essentially. They stay as true to themselves as they possibly can. True to their goals and their interests. And I think what I also like about them is I don't think they are overdone character tropes. Like Armin, I could like maybe, but like the smart guy planner is an overdone character trope.
Yeah.
Mikasa, the super proficient, like really good at everything she does, like talented character is overdone. The thing that makes her, I think, different is that she also happens to be the love interest and everything. Like, you know what I mean? Being a woman and being the proficient character, the amazing person, everything else. Not the main character, right? Like she's a supporting character technically. Aaron's the main character, but when you look at actual skills and stuff, he's got him beat miles on any kind of combat skills whatsoever, and Armin's miles smarter than he is. So Aaron sort of being this like reluctant protagonist almost. I do like that about Aaron, but again, the thing that holding me back on him is the doom and gloom. I gotta be honest, right? Like I liked more, I think, the original season Aaron of I have hope, like despite all this stuff and the bad things, like we can do this, we can come back. And then he just gets so beaten down and it's just doom and gloom. And then now season 4 he rolls out too cool for fucking school, right? Like he's there and he's got this plan he signed on with his half brother and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once you get a man bun in anime, you're like at the bee's knees. So I mean, that's it. Like
yeah. I mean, so like and Levi was like a legitimate badass in season 4, so maybe that's also why he's standing tall, because he just loved him cutting off Zeke's limbs all the time. He's just like, you're not gonna die, but you don't need these either. Slice, like just like repeat.
He's a G. Like him and Kenny are both G's through and through. No, I'm with you. I mean, all those characters. Hanjo, I'm with you too. I think I like her so much because she's always stuck to her guns and has been that role. And again, all the scavenging, she keeps climbing up the ranks because people die, but like earning the right to do so as well.
Yeah.
So what do you rate the show at right now?
All right.
Anything needs to happen for you to, push it up or down?
I mean, for me, it's a solid 8. If the conclusion goes the way you described of like Aaron absorbs everything and then fucks off and dies, it'll probably stay an 8. Because you already predicted this, right? So we can't say it's unpredictable as an ending. You literally called it right now, if that's how it goes. And two, it doesn't like that's not very twisty, right? Like it's very in keeping with everyone's characters and stuff like that. Like it's very logical from what's going on. And not that I need a twist, but I would definitely, it would improve my thinking or feeling of the anime way to move it up is if there was some sort of final twist, if there was something in here that like we really just didn't see coming or didn't understand or just something to throw us off again, right? That would help me, right? Because right now it seems like things are moving towards singularity, essentially everything being absorbed into one thing.
Yeah.
Downhill for me, Zeke's plan. If they really go the way of the euthanasia of just like we're gonna remove their ability to reproduce and then they'll eventually just all die out. That's really what they fucking do. I'm gonna be fucking disappointed, honestly.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'd put it like 8.5.
So you're edging it up a little higher. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
What gets
season
you?
2 ending was kind of like low. There's parts of it that like I love, didn't love. This last season kind of left a bad taste in my mouth too. So it's like, all right. I mean, the first season was like one of my favorites, 9 out of 10 kind of thing. But I think 8.5 is a fair way to put it. I think I can kind of get back up to a 9 if it, ends with the characters I like. Again, that's, bias. I think it does go down to like a 2 for me if Zeke wins, is alive, and if Gabby is somehow still alive and anywhere remotely on the winning team. I think this shows. I think I need to take like a year or two to digest it and then come back around and talk about it objectively and maybe give it a more of a fair rating. But that'll make me pissed off.
I mean, I could definitely easily see the storyline where Falco dies, and this is what eventually gets Gabby to realize all the wrong and brainwashing she's been through.
And that makes me mad too. And if she's some
arc.
And exactly. And we see that more than just all the characters we've seen for the last 3.5 seasons or 4.5 seasons. Sorry. Yeah, no, 3.5, 4.5, whatever.
3.5. Yeah.
All those characters, we don't see them duke it out and see the action sequences, and it's just basically a Gabby arc. Again, I think I'll need time to digest it and maybe appropriately like give it some actual criticism, but I know initially I'm going to hate it. So that's what I don't want to see. That will knock it down to a 2 for me because I hate Gabby and I hate Zeke that much. I hate Reiner so much. All 3 of those characters I want to see die this season. Like they need to die for me to really keep the show at 8.5.
Reiner feels very trending towards death, right? Like his whole inner monologue, like crisis that he's having, moral crisis over like what's the right thing to do or not right, and how he began to see the Eldians as people, but the Marleyans are, his home, and did it like he very much feels like one of those characters that's moving towards a tragic end. So I think you'll get that.
But see, I don't think either him or Aaron has to die when they duke it out. Both of them aren't going to be alive. One of them has to go. And like for my theory, with my theory, even too, to your point, I could see Reiner then executing Aaron's idea of having it all die with him. But now it pissed me off because Reiner doesn't deserve that hero ending because he's not a hero. He's a scared coward in the military. It's what he's always been. And he doesn't want to put that mantle up. And he inherited basically a power on a fluke.
I mean, things that would knock it down for me if Reiner surrenders his power to Aaron. Right? Like,
yeah, that would be a letdown because you want to see them battle one last time.
Yeah, I really do. I really do want to see it. And like, I could see it both ways. I could see them having a big battle to the finish kind of thing. I could also see Reiner yielding to Aaron essentially because he doesn't see the point of the war and he thinks it's cost a lot of lives and blah blah blah. Sees Falco die maybe, and then he's just like, oh, what is this going to cost us? Like whatever.
Yeah, Falco and Gabby have a big role to play still, which is upsetting.
I don't like late introductions like that typically, for the record.
I'm with you.
You should have your cast and stick with it.
Yeah.
And let people die. It's okay. Let them die.
No, I'm with you. And that's what I don't like about, how much role they're going to play. It's really upsetting.
They're literally last minute introductions in the final season that we're supposed to emotionally connect with that if they don't
we could have had it with the
play,
flashbacks. The flashbacks paved it. That's why I didn't like it. When one giant circle, we didn't need them. You could have did the flashbacks, went the giant circle without adding them in there. You could have still killed Sasha in a much cooler way than the bullshit.
There's no good handling of Falco and Gabby at this point because either they play an important role, which is a last minute introduction, which I think is absolutely stupid.
Like, they just never had to be.
Care about these people, right? Or they don't play an important role, in which case, why did we give them so much screen time?
Yeah.
Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
There's
I
no
will
winning with
say
them, I think, honestly.
Armin might fight Rainer at some point too. He might interfere too, because that'd be a cool thing too. Because that was Reiner's boy. He inherited the power. Reiner kind of looks up to the Colossal Titan as like unbeatable, and like his mind, I feel like he thinks that's the most powerful Titan. So it'd be a cool kind of component to see if he takes him out, or that's how he dies as the Colossal Titan.
Yeah, well,
That
I'd also like
I'd
to
accept
see.
that too.
That would be probably the best death in my mind. I'd love to see him fighting Aaron. But I'd also love to see Armin being a combatant, right? Like he's been on the survey corps and everything else, but like what we've seen time and again is like it's his mind, it's his planning. We've seen characters like that for, again, it's a common trope, common enough at least. And I think it'd be really cool if it's like, hey, yeah, but now that he's inherited the Titan power, he's legitimately like fighting, and
Yeah.
being physical and having that side of him shown would be awesome.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think either way, both excited. Well, January 9th, we finally see.
I do look forward to it. Absolutely. I want to see what happens. I'm curious about your prediction, because my prediction is mostly just pointing out, it's not really a prediction to an ending, right? Like mine's mostly just pointing out factors to things with the memory alteration and how that leads us to wonder maybe about the way people are either talking about the past and or viewing the past. Now, like largely we can assume that the things we were shown in the show are true because they were flashbacks. They weren't like recounted memories, for example. But there's all kinds of stuff. Like there was a big time jump essentially from the end of the third season to this season. They eliminated all the Titans on the island, right? Like we find that out, and we didn't talk about this before now, but like they literally have hunted down and killed every single Titan on Paradise Island. So what Aaron's original goal was has already been achieved at this point.
But then Titans Zeke with the whole blood thing and the wine, that's the issue.
Right. And so
which Zeke again throws in a complication.
Zeke. Well, fair enough. So yeah, I don't have like a firm prediction. I'm very curious to see how yours goes. Because you've definitely made some very specific predictions here coming into the final season.
It's gonna be interesting. There's just a lot of characters I think you need to have those final battles for. And again, it comes back to why Gabby and Falco are kind of lame ducks, didn't need to be introduced. And I think a lot of fans, I don't think, would enjoy either one of them kind of being the last person standing. Although there's a big sector of fans that enjoyed them. I think from what I've seen in the Twitterverse, yeah, I know Gabby's pretty well hated, but a lot of folks did like Falco in that, the parallels of, coming full circle, understanding that you're indoctrinated, might be seeing it wrong. But again, I think we saw that the flashbacks didn't really need them. And again, it's to your point. It's either you put the onus on them, which sucks, late additions, or meaningless, didn't need them at all. Why were they there? Yeah. We'll see how it goes out. But I do want to talk more anime in the show for sure going forward. I mean, Demon Slayer, I think we need to get in there. My Hero, I think we need to get in there too. And there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. I mean, I think we need down for it, obviously. I'd love to talk about some of the Netflix adaptations too that are coming on. The time of recording here, there was the Cowboy Bebop debacle.
I would love to have a Cowboy, especially two of them canceling it too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's one of the fastest canceled Netflix shows,
which is just crazy to me too. With how many bad shows have gone 2-3 seasons, and it's just like, really, like you're not even gonna give it a second shot. Like that's crazy. And
I'm very curious what internal metrics they had to make the decision.
I think it's just the fans hating it. I think we can dedicate a whole episode of that for sure. And I don't know if you've seen it the whole.
No, I haven't watched it because I was.
I think you'll like it.
We'll find out. Because I was saving myself for you in this. If we were gonna do the Cowboy Bebop episode, I was gonna binge through it then whenever we did that, if we did that. So yeah, it'd be cool to bring in some more of the
no, definitely watch before Netflix just cans it all together and gets it off of there. But there's a lot to talk about there. I think a lot to like, a lot to dislike, but something we talked about on the show before. I think a lot of fans having too much say in certain things and being negative just for the sake of negativity. But save that for a Cowboy Bebop show. I think we gotta end it on the classic. What are you playing? What are you watching? What are you checking out?
So for me, what I've been playing recently, boringly, Legends. It came to the end of its season. I did finish in gold. I'm very proud of myself for doing that.
Damn. Okay, man. You're the only gold player I know. I know all bronze people. I hang out with losers. Yeah.
It's not even a hard game.
So no, honestly, yeah. I mean, I honestly don't know that many people that play, but you're the only gold player. So.
That makes me feel better. No, I'm pretty sure our friend Evan is platinum.
Well, shit. Now I know two people that are
Yeah,
G's.
no,
Okay.
he's like semi legit at this. Coaches
Damn.
a
All
team
right.
and stuff
I
like
have to
that.
shoot him like
But
a congratulations text. No way. Does he really
um,
coach a team?
yeah, he really does. He coaches like
Damn,
a
that's
college team
crazy.
or something like
Actually,
that.
I
Yeah,
knew that. Yeah, with
like
my
an amateur.
esports
Yeah,
coverage, I knew that. And shame on me for forgetting that. Yeah.
yeah. Shame, shame.
Yeah.
Um, watching. I'm doing a rewatch of Witcher coming out in the next. No, in the next week. Was that Witcher
Mm.
season 2? I'm looking forward to immensely.
Nice, nice.
We're just wondering what you're playing, what you're watching.
True. Uh, Overwatch still, fan of the show, Jay. Him and I always do Overwatch Fridays, so keep that rocking and
Really? Is
rolling.
that a thing for you guys?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
that.
I did finally beat Fallen Order Star Wars wise last month. I enjoyed it. Don't ever want to replay it ever again. Didn't really like the combat. The lock on stuff made me mad, but great story. Enjoyed it. I'm going back to Spider-Man for the DLC I never played, and I want a new game plus that. I still got to beat Final Fantasy 7 on hard mode, and I picked it up, but I was in a chapter where there's a lot of talking going on, and it kind of made me shift to Spider-Man.
Aren't
And
they coming out with the HD remaster of that too?
it's on the PC, Intergrade Final Fantasy 7 remake. That was an announcement in the Game Awards, but no word on chapter 2 yet. And then watching wise, my sister, brother-in-law, we all watched Cowboy Bebop. Save that, review for that episode.
Okay.
And I actually just finished How to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon. I was on Crunchyroll looking at animes like in the queue with Demon Slayer because I caught up on that. And I just finished that too, which okay. I watched the first, 2 seasons when it was thing. So I kind of just went back to finish it off. I was like, take it or leave it. Didn't really finish how I was like kind of just was boring me at a certain point. Wasn't as good as the first season. But Demon Slayer, still love it, enjoying it. I still think the fight, and we can save that for another episode too. I think there's a lot to talk about with the Mugen Train arc.
Jujutsu
But
Kaisen. Have you
I
seen
haven't
that one?
watched it.
Oof.
It's on there. I know you talk about it a lot. I was thinking about starting it up
to.
because I need something to watch. So
It's definitely like in the vein of like the Bleach, Dragon Ball type things of like the main character training and improving and learning new powers and overcoming obstacles. Like it's got that going on, but definitely with a much grittier, more adult vibe overall because it's got like a lot more of the horror notes going on. So I think it's a pretty sweet spot for me
nice,
personally.
nice. Now check it out then. But what are we going to talk about next episode? We have a cliffhanger, or we just leave it in today? Thanks for listening and rock and roll.
Oh, you know me. I love cliffhangers. So we'll see. We'll find out. I don't know. Do you know?
I mean, I know we're going to have content for you guys. We don't know what the
Yes.
next topic might be. It might be another anime episode. Might be some video game stuff. There's a lot of stuff at Game Awards I think we can sift through as well. But
True.
I do think you guys are going to see a nice return to spectator mode more frequently, which is awesome. And I think, we're going to see a lot more guests in the show as well. We talk about different things and take more care with these topical episodes. We do some deeper dives, a little bit lengthier for you guys. So I think that is exciting. I know for me, I miss doing this. I'm excited to get more into rhythm with it and actual schedule. And as always, guys, thanks for listening and thanks for supporting.